Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt, and we're coming to you live with the Rugby Rants Draft Show 2024 edition. We got a great lineup. And listen, in a couple minutes, I'm going to bring in all our guests. We've got a great lineup, and we've got a lot of surprises for you guys to give you guys, fans of the MLR, fans of the draft, a little insight into this 2024 draft and some insights that perhaps you can't get anywhere else except here at the Rugby Rant Podcast Show. But before I do that, I just want to add some context. And I spent some time with GMs last week, recorded some of those conversations, and I put them together. And one of the first ones that I wanted to share with everybody was, what qualities they look for in a draft selection. And with that in mind, I brought to you TK from New England. I brought to you James English from Chicago, Nola Golds, Ryan Fitzgerald, and then I've got Lucas Cocarelli from Miami. So they all have unique insights on the league and on this draft. So I'm going to share that video with you right now. Just let me get it queued up and enjoy this. And when you come back, we're going to introduce our guests and just start talking about this draft and what kind of things we expect and what we want to see and forecast maybe who some of the major draftees are going to be early on in the first round. So like I said, let's check this out. This should be solid. Draft based upon need or best player available.
I'd actually love to hear some of the answers on that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think generally we've drafted or at least put more weight and impetus towards positional needs. And I think positions in which there's less decision making for the athletes. So probably, prop, and you've probably seen this in our drafts to date, prop, back row, even second row, really all the forwards, and then outside backs are the main sort of positions because there's less decision making there. And we feel that athletes coming out of the collegiate world, they'll have the physical stuff, but it's getting the rugby IQ and skill sets up to speed. So traditionally that's been our sort of model, but I can tell you in this draft class, sometimes you just have to make the best from what you've got. And this time around, it's definitely going to be the best available player for us because, we had a look at the positional stuff and it just doesn't really work this year. So I think we've changed our model to this season just going after the best possible players, because at the end of the day, if you're looking at longevity and guys that are going to make a real mark in the league and have a real chance to have a long and decent career in the league, you need to go after those guys. So that's what we're doing this year at the Free Jacks.
I think that you have to go with the talent and the character. I think that you take what you can get. I think you take what the best player is that's available that you think that projects at the next level, and you run with that. And I think that a team like ourselves will back ourselves around our coaching and the quality of coaching that players will get when they come to us, that whether it's a tight head prop, a scrum half, or a fullback, that we have the resources to help them get to the next level. So, yeah, personally, I think that you go on the players that are there. But there's going to be some times where it's a really close decision between two or three players, and perhaps you might sway in the kind of area of positional need that you might have in your squad.
Well, I think it's a little bit a balance between drafting for needs or drafting for the best player available. Ideally, we want to fit specific needs in our roster. As we talked before, it's a stage where we have completed most of our team. So I think we will focus more in our needs. But we also look for good players who could be valuable for our team. So we will make a strategy decision that contributes to the team.
More likely best available. Obviously, the easy answer would be you need the guy and he's the best available. That would be a perfect world, right? That'd be a perfect world. But I think, especially if you get to the middle, if you're right there in the top one or top two or something like that, then you could probably get a little bit more selfish and a little bit more, honed in and targeted on what you specifically need. But if you get in that middle part of the round, or in the back end of the draft, I think you're picking the best available, because especially rugby is a tough sport, is a physical sport. There are going to be some niggles, there are going to be some injuries, and maybe a guy is coming off of, we have so-and-so at number 6 this year, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract. He's 31, 32. Has he got a wife and kids that he might be moving next year? You never know. So, and you could have his replacement behind him for 10 years, so I think sometimes it's really, really hard to pass up on stuff like that. Like you take the best one, that you can.
All right, fellas, let's first introduce our guests, and then we've got a special one hanging kind of in the background on deck that I think is going to fit perfect in with us to talk about that last piece from the GMs. So immediately to my left, we've got none other than to be knighted an East Coast Rugby, none other than Tim Brown, of course, with Strong Lad Rugby. Folks, he does some amazing rugby tours. He did a couple of rugby tours to Ireland for some high school programs. So if you want to get a rugby tour working, he'll take care of everything nuts to bolts. But Tim, first off, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. It was exciting to hear that GMs kind of give their strategy. So
yeah, 100%. And I was lucky to have those 4 guys on there. They're a great lot, and they really helped me out in setting this up. So yeah, we got Tim, and he's going to offer some great insights because he was at MLR Rising. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then down below Tim, we have none other than the MLR stats guy, James Dealey. Don't forget, folks, go to Rugby Now, go to Shop MLR. You can use the code MLR stats and you can get yourself 15% off.
Use
James,
use it as much as you want.
Yeah,
It's the end of the season. Pick up the cheap stuff. Come on, it's all on clearance. Use my code.
They've got the City jerseys on sale for $79.99, and I think all the Kappa jerseys on sale for the same. So use the code, get more discounts, and get more merch. And then, for no other reason except for he's never been on the show before, we got none other than Jacob Schaefer. We'll call him Youngblood tonight. It's a one-time term that we're going to use just tonight because he's a rookie.
I could have made a better epitaph for you guys, but I was a bit short on time there.
But he's a trap prognosticator. He did a nice job on Reddit putting out what he thought were, he had some bios, background on some of the draftees, and then of course put on his draft board for the first 2 rounds. It was pretty cool to see. So
it was really well done.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I got it forwarded to me. I was like, wow, this guy doing some work.
Yeah, put in the work, put in the hard yards, and that's why we brought him on. And we think he can add a lot of value to the show. We can't wait to hear what Youngblood says today. But I'm going to introduce another gentleman, and I may just take myself off the camera, and I'll let you guys kind of banter about. But this next guy, I don't know that he needs an introduction, but he's just a freaking dude. He is a dude. You need dudes on rugby teams, and this guy is a dude. Hails from Missouri, went to LU, played at, got a contract, played at Houston, and now he's in Miami. And one of the things that I want to talk to, and the reason I brought Alec on, Alec McDonald from the Miami Sharks, and bringing him on, because I want him to talk about 2 things. Number one, making that transition, especially as a prop from, a high-level college program to the MLR, what's that take? And then secondarily, talk a little bit about Rick Rose. Alec was his teammate. Rick played in all 16 games, phenomenal kid. What did this guy bring to the table as a number 1 draft pick from 2024? So with that, I'm going to bring in my man, Alec McDonald. What's up, my brother?
How's it going, guys? Pleasure to be on. I'm my first podcast ever, so.
Well, I'm honored. So I don't, sometimes I'm not sure what folks hear in the back end when they're waiting room, but, first of all, can you just talk for a moment about making that transition, especially in the engine room, up front row, prop, one of the big positions? Take some time to make adjustments there to the MLR game. Can you tell fans, what that transition like is like coming from a D1A program like Lindenwood University?
Yeah, I mean, obviously getting to the league, like everyone is bigger, faster, and stronger. You know, in college, was decently sized guy. Didn't go backwards that much in the scrum, and then once I got to New York my first year, it was a learning curve. You know, I was getting my butt kicked for a while. I was like, wow, this is really a whole different league. I'm trying to adjust, and what I'd say to younger players is that you just have to be willing to learn, and just like you don't think or you don't know as much as you think. You gotta just be willing to be humble and kind of learn how to navigate the game that way, and just be willing to learn and just stay level-headed when you're down in the dumps, and just but don't get too high when you're doing well. You just gotta maintain composure, but also keep the grit going, because it's a long journey. It's hard, but it's fun. It's very rewarding to get there.
You probably found out very quickly that old man strength is different than college strength, right?
Oh yeah. No, it's crazy. I think my first scrum was versus Patty Ryan in practice. And he just got off the USA tour, I think, that year, and that was definitely dumbfounded on what real strength is.
Well, Patty's got a chest like a concrete mixer, man. I mean,
Yeah.
It was funny about Patty is we were on a flight down to Chicago, down to New Orleans for the game, and I went into the restroom, and on the plane, and I'm like pinned in, and I'm like 6'1", about 200 pounds. I'm not that big of a dude, but I'm in there and I'm pinned in, and I'm going, how the hell does Patty Ryan move in this space if he has to take a leak? You know?
Yeah, no, I think that's where I lost my neck, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. So listen, Alec, just one more question for you, because I know your time is valuable, but I sure appreciate you coming on the show to share with us some insights. So, we're looking at the draft. We got about 16 minutes or a little less to go until we start to get some of those picks rolling in. And, everybody's wondering who that number one pick is going to be. Last year, let's go back, 2023 draft, of course, Rick Rose went to the Miami Sharks. The new team played 16 games. Was huge in my mind for a draftee to put in that kind of time and stay injury free. And one hell of a kid, met his folks, just an outstanding young man. You can really tell when I meet parents, that's how I get a pretty good beat on what a young man is like. Talk about Rick Rose and what he brings to the table as his rookie season to the Miami Sharks, Alec.
Oh yeah, no. Rick Rose is the best. He's a great kid. He stepped into the role pretty quick. He was part of the leadership group for the lineouts, and he just kind of stepped right in. I'm like, man, it took me 3 years even to go into the academy to even figure out what I was even doing. And he was right there first day doing it. But me and him, he's just a great kid. Like me and him bond over talking about the Midwest and fishing and hunting and stuff like that. And we test each other's long-winded jokes on each other just to make sure they're funny, or if they're just funny to us, So, no, he's a great kid, though. He played every game. I think he almost played he played every game, I think. He could play flanker, played lock. He was just willing to learn and was just there to be a student, and he just played so well. And I was very proud of him, and I think he's the future is bright for USA Rugby if he's in it. So,
for sure.
Do we have time for a question? Are we
100%?
That tight?
100%.
Do you remember,
absolutely.
Alec?
Shoot.
Do you remember, Alec, when I called you in the draft eval boards?
Called me? Was there a draft in the?
It was. Your name was showing up as kind of like a sleeper, so I was calling on behalf of Old Glory, and I had you really highly rated, and it was like 2 years, would take 2 years, but I distinctly remember had I known you'd been on the show, I would have tried to pull out my paperwork, but I remember it obviously I didn't make a huge impression on you, but we had like a 20 minute talk just about goals and do you want to play MLR? So it's really
I do remember that, because I forgot what was happening. I I think I was recruited by Atlanta heavily, and I just I know what was going on, and I just kind of I don't think that it was the right situation for me because they wanted me down there in August, and I was working at a harbor at home in the Mississippi River, just doing my own thing, and then Greg McWilliams called me after that, and I think I don't know, just it was I was bewildered because I was the first time I ever got an attention playing.
Right.
But it was no. I do remember talking to you about all that stuff, and but you got Jack. That's a great great addition.
Yeah. But anyways, you were one of the few people that ever wrote a thank you note even back. You were like, hey, which I was impressed with. So that was cool.
You know, I did. I appreciate everybody. You know, they show interest. I really do appreciate it. No, but that was awesome. Thank you, though. Thank you for showing interest.
So, hey, listen, I want to talk with the group here, the panel, as we start to get into it. Of course, this draft, huge draft. What sort of things should we be looking for? You know, Alec, you played in the league, 3 different teams. Tim, you've obviously worked for Old Glory. James, you know, you dig into the stats. Jacob, you're huge, like me, a huge fan and go to games and you like to talk with the boys, just to you know, have a chat with you know, a rugby chat with some of the guys. So, you know, what are we looking for off the field from, you know, our draft picks that we want to see to go to our respective teams? Just throwing it out there. Anybody, take it and go.
Someone that can multitask. I mean, these guys they're treated like pro athletes, but they're not treated like a pro baseball player, in that I highly doubt there's anyone in MLR that has a driver or a driver and a chef and their agent. Like, for instance, the guys that have agents, the agents won't be there negotiating everything. These guys got to be adults and fend for themselves. So I would say, I mean, Alec, disagree with me if I'm wrong, but someone that can advocate for themselves and kind of stick up for themselves, I think someone who's community minded, that's a huge thing and a huge value added to the teams when someone is able to go out in the community and speak intelligently about rugby and about what they do. They're able to generate a lot of excitement. I really think individual players generate a lot of ticket sales. You know, if you've got a player with a good personality, they're bringing in 100 kids from a club. That's enormous.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Tim there. I mean, at this point for rugby in the US, every player and every pro player especially is a salesman trying to sell the game to their communities. So they have to really kind of be, as well as a professional athlete like they treated Tim, they have to be very involved in the community, always, you know, kind of selling the game, selling their team and everything like that, because that's what the game needs at this point.
Jacob, you know, obviously 2 seasons in New England, very successful seasons, back-to-back champs. Congratulations. You know, as a fan who watched from the sidelines, 8 games a season, regular season, and of course into the playoffs, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for someone who, the guys who are willing to buy into the culture. You know, every year coaches like to set out, here's how we want to be, here's what we want to do. And, you know, if you get guys who are, you know, me, I'm the stats guy, I did all this, I did all that, you know, they're going to be successful. They're not going to be.
Yeah. We've got one stats guy in this place, and that's a guy over on the left over there. No, but you mean a guy that's only looking at his stats as opposed to
a guy that's out for his stats, a guy who's too caught up in trying to make something for himself that he maybe misses out on that culture a little bit, because especially with the Free Jacks, you know, they post stuff from the locker room all the time. That's a group of guys that, you know, they buy into everything that Scott Matthew had to say, and I don't think that's a trend that's going to change very soon. So people were maybe, you know, willing to put aside their personal preferences, their egos for a little bit to buy into what the team is doing to make themselves successful by making everyone successful.
And real quick, because I want to shuffle over to Alec, because I mean, obviously, you know, he plays, he's got teammates, and he knows what he's looking for in a teammate. But Jacob, what's the buzz around New England? They've identified a head coach, Ryan Martin. He's been with the team before. Then they just today identified an assistant coach, DeWald Senecal. Is there a buzz going on with, in your fan groups amongst fans? Do we expect the culture to stay the same, to be a little bit different? What are your expectations as a fan?
They're a little bit, there's a lot of the same with Ryan Martin coming back, but there's also a lot of different stuff going on. I think everyone's just excited to see what it is. Ryan Martin and just today we got a very good resumes coming in on the coaching side now. And I think that's what everyone's looking to, especially is not so much what's going to be the same, what's going to be different is what are these guys going to be able to bring that maybe we didn't have before, or going to bring that we could have had, but maybe now we want to go a different way. So it's less about, expecting change or worried about change, just being excited to see what's there now that wasn't there before.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Alec, from a teammate perspective, what are you looking for from a rookie? Are you looking for a rookie to come in and shut the F up and keep his head down and do what he's supposed to do what he's told, and be a sponge and learn? Or do you want a rookie that kind of on occasion advocates for himself and says, hey, I think, we need to do X, or we need to do Y, or have we ever considered this option? What are you looking for in a teammate?
I mean, I think they should kind of be a little bit of both of those options because, I think especially coming from college rugby in America, like there's definitely high levels in the college rugby, but you just gotta learn. You gotta be able to learn, and you gotta be able to take take the information as you get it. But if you can lead, go ahead and do that kind of thing. But also I couldn't agree with Tim and James more, or James, right? Sorry. That you got to be a good representative for the team. Like the main thing we do is in the airports when we're going to away games, we have people asking us if we're a soccer team or a pit crew or whatever, because we all have matching polos on, and they're like, we have to explain what rugby is probably 3-4 times just in the tunnel, and just be good representatives. And that, I mean, we have the more fans we have, the better,
Yeah.
And maybe in 10, 15 years, we might have MLB contracts, but, this time we're being door-to-door salesmen, just telling, hey, here's what rugby is. It's pretty cool. And, having representatives like, but I'd say Rick Rose is perfect for that. He's a chatty guy. He's got a great voice, and he wants to tell everybody about rugby, and it's pretty cool when we go out there and you see him do that. So it's good to have a rookie like that. So
that's awesome. I think that's great advice. And like you said, I think in having met Rick, I think he is a shining example of all those things. I want to kind of turn over. We're 5 minutes before the draft here, so we want to talk a little bit about forecasting. And so, Tim, if you could just take a moment. You were in Fredericksburg. It's where you live, Mount St. Mary, Washington, right there. You're a stone's throw from the pitch, from your front door. But what did you see? What did MLR Rising tell you as one of those guys that was there on the ground about those personalities, about those guys that could really reflect what Alec is talking about and what Jacob and James, want to see in a player that comes to their team?
Well, let me give a lot of credit to, we had Tui from down in Miami.
Tui Osborne, right?
Yeah, I'd known him from coaching. Had Josh Macy. We had a couple developing coaches with me here. And then it was led by Kevin Battle, who did a tremendous job. There was a few times, just to summarize, there was a few times where we were talking about scheduling and talking about, hey, we have choice A, it's going to cost this, and we have choice B, it'll cost this. Or we have these two choices. One is more of a commitment of materials and goods, and they chose the class way to do it every time. Like it was really extremely well done and serious. I think if people get a chance to watch the MLR Rising documentary, the amount of effort that went into that, and I bet you they have over 100, I don't know, God knows, 150 hours of film that they have to narrow down
to 54.
Yeah. The way they ran it, it was a pro style training. up tempo, very little rest, high intensity. The fact that they were able to persevere through the heat. I mean, this is normally a great place to hang out, but that week was there was a couple sessions that you'll see in the video where it looks like it's raining and it's just the guy sweating. So I have nothing but great things to say. It was also really good that they invested time in coaches. They brought up some young coaches to work with them too. So I think all the way around, and you know, I'm probably guilty of reading feedback online. You know, like I don't mind doing that. It doesn't bother me. When I was running the academy, I would love it when parents would post anonymously. Of course, I know who they are, but it's just good. You know, it's just good to read that. I'm like, all right, fair play, right? But
because usually there's a kernel of truth in there sometimes.
Right,
I mean, we
yeah,
get to the
like-
bottom of it, right?
like I'm big and bald and stupid. Great, I got it. Like, but other than that, it was all true.
Gotta be right.
So I'm reading some of this feedback online. Well, what if they only get 5 players out of there? And it is really rising all the ships, because to have a guy who maybe seems like a leader behind the scenes, but just physically was not able to keep up, to have him come back to me at the end of it and he's all bruised and battered and go, thank you, that was fantastic. Like when we're talking about growing the game, they really invested a lot of time in 50 leaders. And a very quick true story, one of our graduating seniors here at Mary Washington, he is not at this time MLR ready. He's not. He's just like, physically he may be. He's huge. But he was able to meet one of the better men's clubs. They started interviewing him at the MLR Rising, and now they're helping him find a job. You know, I'll tell you who is Old Blue is helping him find a job up in New York City and helping him with housing. So there's a guy that maybe would have, I don't know, found a job where there wasn't men's rugby, or there wasn't men's rugby that could advance his game. And through that MLR Rising program, they kept someone in rugby at a high level playing, and he may
Find his way.
progress on. So there was so much good stuff. And Kevin Battle kicks ass. Like he worked hard. You know, so
yeah, the MLR clearly put an emphasis on MLR Rising. Of course, taking the mantelpiece from Nick Colling and Brendan Sparks over there when they were at Utah. We got about 30 seconds or a little less. Let's just quickly talk about this draft. What are we expecting, James? What kind of expectations do we have insofar as internationals? How many internationals do we suspect? Jacob, you did the draft board. Who we think is going first? Let's nail that.
I think number one is all the hype's been around him. It's got to be Eric Storty. Missed MLR Rising, which was unfortunate because he was in the Eagles summer test camp.
Yeah.
That's
not a bad excuse, is it?
That's a pretty good reason to be missing that. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he's on the reserves list for the Pacific Nations Cup as well. So, that's just coming out of college. That is a very, very impressive resume to have. I think it's pretty obvious he's going to go number one.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the likes of Gabe Casey last year, who was actually admittedly he was drafted twice, but before he was drafted in 2023, and I don't think he only made a handful of appearances for the Free Jacks. They had quite a lot of depth, hence the shield. But Storty kind of reminds me of that kind of level.
Sorry, Tim, what are you thinking?
I'll agree with the first pick, and I do believe it's going to trend towards guys that were playing with the better California, the better kind of Brigham Young schools, and the Rugby East schools. I mean, I watch a lot of rugby, travel around a lot, and that rugby is not MLR caliber, but it's probably the caliber that's going to get guys ready and get them on the field close enough. D1A, and that's no knock on anything else, but it's just, I saw maybe it was the stats guy that put this out, or maybe it was Jacob, but I saw something where they were evaluating how many 15s games each of these teams play per year. So I don't think it's any accident St. Mary's was playing in the low 20s. Most of the Rugby East teams were playing in the high teens. That's a good prep and a good audition for going pro, if that's your goal.
Yeah, James, let's talk about, you looked at some of the statistics about the numbers of players in the draft that were D1A versus, or CRAA, I should say, D1A versus NCR. Were there any insights there?
Well, I mean, you do tend to see the same kind of schools if we go back to throughout previous drafts. Kind of like Tim said, you see the likes of Brigham Young and St. Mary's College and Life and Lindenwood. You see them kind of cropping up year after year after year. And I don't think that's going to change massively. One, we have got kind of a surprise drop-off from the first few drafts is Kutztown. We haven't really seen any draftees from them in a couple of years. But apart from that, it does tend to be the same kind of 5 or 6, half a dozen schools that have multiple players drafted year after year after year. I mean, Lindenwood has had the most draftees, I think, for every single draft so far. And in 2020, it was like tied with a few other schools because there was only 24. But 2021, 22, 23, they've had the same, the top, the most draftees every single year.
Yeah,
I don't know if that will continue, but I expect it to be up there.
Yeah, I would guess that that's true. Alec, you came from Lindenwood. You came from one of those CRAA D1 programs. How well do you think it prepared you to become an MLR player?
I think it prepared me right because it was a high level. I mean, I definitely needed to adjust for the speed, size, and strength of the MLR, but like we had a great program. We had strength conditioning involved. Like I know some programs don't even barely struggle for field space. We didn't have that. We had a great program at Lindenwood, so it was kind of easy making the jump from the professional aspect of weights, film sessions, and all that kind of stuff into the MLR. So it was good to be involved in a program like that.
No doubt. And obviously St. Mary's and Life and stuff. And there we have it. It looks like, the draft is going live. We've got our first selection. And as everybody kind of thought it would be Eric Storty, I mean, I would akin his selection to that of Tavita Lopetti from Seattle, a kid who was actually capped as an Eagle prior to playing an MLR game. And so hopefully Eric gets his chance either, in the Pacific Rim here or in the Fall Internationals to cut his teeth with the Eagles prior to joining the Anthem. Why does this make sense, this selection? I think that's the important question.
Well, look at the team he's going to. He's going to Anthem, who are focused on developing USA Eagles, and he looks like he is pretty close already to becoming a USA Eagle. He's going to be in a system that's entirely devoted to developing USA talent and creating Eagles. I think that's a fantastic selection for Anthem. I think it's the first St. Mary's Gale to be selected first overall. So congrats to him.
Yeah, and we see now the second selections that we got James on here. You have to be proud of Neil Traynor. He's actually USA qualified. I don't know if, Tim, you have some familiarity here with this, but Queen's University. James, can you just tell us a little bit about the level that Queen's operates at? Because, being from Canada, you have more familiarity certainly than some of us here in the States do about the Canadian uni program.
Absolutely. So funny fact that he's also a Gale. He's a Queen's Golden Gale in the Ontario University Athletics. So in Canada, there's not so much divisions. There's more kind of like a provincial league, and then there's the Canadian University Men's Rugby Club or Rugby Championship. So they finished runners-up. Queens finished runners-up in the OUA in 2023. He's born in Maryland, and then he's raised in Canada. So that might be why Anthem is interested, because he is US eligible.
He shows up on film too. We were
Yeah.
supposed to have them here the last couple years to play Mary Washington. So in scouting, he showed up quite clearly as a very active hooker who's very skilled.
I should say he's actually the highest ever drafted Canadian. I know he was born in the US, but he's the highest ever now, which I'm quite happy with.
James, we play Guelph on Saturday, so we've been
Oh, yeah?
doing the tour of the Canadian teams.
You've done a few rundowns, have you?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, hey, let's get a tour going to Canada, huh, Tim?
Yeah.
I can't host all you guys. I don't have enough room in my apartment, but it'd be great to see you.
They're fun teams to play, and they're very organized. We've had Concordia, Guelph, and Queens on the schedule the last few years.
It does tend to be Queens, Brock, Guelph always competing for the OUA.
So we've gone through 4 picks here, and sorry, folks, we're just, we're trying to give you some coverage. We're trying to give you a bit of detail, but also, and provide you with something maybe you can't get. But we got 4 picks in so far. Again, Eric Storty, number 1, goes to the Anthem second pick. At number 2 is Neil Trainer, hooker from Queens. Miami selected Alec. Let's give a big cheer here, buddy. And number 3 pick, Calvin Eyrig from Lindenwood University.
Right.
And by the way, a St. Louis Bomber, bro. St. Louis Bomber. And then you've got New England picked Kaipono Kayashi. Are these surprises?
I wouldn't say anything has been that surprising so far. Neil moved up the draft board in all the mock drafts recently. I really like Calvin Eyrig going to Miami, linking up with Ben Bonasso and Manu Ardao down there. That is a scary back row. And then Pono Kayashi, I loved him as a prospect. MLR Rising on the black team there. I really loved what he was doing in that back row there. I'm really excited for him to be in the New England red, white, and blue.
You got to be excited to have a LU homeboy joining you, Alec.
Oh yeah, we could use some more down here. I think we had 2 last year. There are 2 more other than me, so I'm excited. I like an LU stack team. We had a lot at Houston as well. So
that's awesome. Now here's an interesting one at number 5. Anthem selected Jerron Panther. He was from Life. I don't know that he showed on a lot of draft boards. What of Anthem seeing in him that maybe moved him up in the draft? Tim, you probably saw. You probably have some familiarity with him.
I was reviewing him, and I feel horrible if he didn't. I think he may have sat out the game against us last year. So I'm not as familiar with him as the other guys. If he's at Life and he's playing at that level, and I did review his film before the show, he's going to have all good skill sets, and he's going to have played 20 kind of smash mouth games per year. So I have no doubt that he's a good candidate.
Yeah, and at fullback too, because by the way, the Anthem, one thing they were able to do is really surprise teams during courses of games. I mean, they ran out a little bit of they had a slow start in a lot of games, but really they were pretty good at the finish. Maybe because they were young, fit, eager, willing just to toss the ball around a little bit to see if they could make something happen. Will this strike a little bit more fear in the hearts of the Eastern Conference foes?
Honestly, I don't think so. It gets back to the difference between rookie strength and old man strength. Now, I think it's a great development, and I hopefully there's a day when every MLR team has their version of the Anthem under them. That would be amazing. Yeah. But in terms of, I don't know that that's the goal of the Anthem. I can't speak for them, but it's just hard to have a team in this league full of young players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Young players.
Yeah. And so on that note, Alec, if you could speak to it, you're probably pretty familiar with Jake Turnbull, who was captain of that ship last year, brought a lot of experience. Of course, Eagle caps himself. How important it is for a young team like that to have a guy like Jake Turnbull, who, by the way, just shout out to Jake. He was one of my top interviews on the Rugby Rant. Just a gregarious guy, full of life, just humble, but super, super genuine dude. How important is to have a guy like that, guiding this ship, guiding these young prospects?
Well, you need a guy to show you how to be professional when you first get in this league. It's your job now. So the guy's been in the league for a long time. Now he's playing with the USA. It's good to have, and just a boy's boy. He's good to have around to show him the culture, show him how it's supposed to operate, and just set the example for the young boys to what to expect in the MLR, and how to be how to go about it well.
Yeah. And let me just recap, folks. Again, I'm sure a lot of you guys are watching on TV, so you're kind of in tune with the picks. But Nola picked Aiden King. I hadn't seen his name thrown around a lot on the draft boards. An interesting pick. I'll be interested to talk with Fitz about this one. San Diego Legion picked Junior Wavisi. Excuse me, I probably butchered the name. Houston, Alex Aguero. And Dallas at number 9, Darius Law. That shouldn't be a surprise. The Law brothers have been torching D1A teams both in the 15s and 7s pitch for the last couple of seasons. As we talk about the draft, because they're going to go fast and furious here, James, if you could just take a minute, there was some last minute draft swaps that weren't posted until today. Can you just, and some of them are we're seeing them come out now. Can you just talk about a couple of those while we're watching a Peyton Wall get selected by, it looks like my guess is Chicago.
It's Indiana University. That would be my bet as well. So
Yep.
the MLR came out with their final draft order earlier today, and there were some things that we were not aware of. For example, the Anthem picked up the 5th overall pick from Old Glory DC, who moved back in the draft to 12th. They picked up Anthem's pick that they had acquired from the Free Jacks, as well as salary cap considerations, which we don't know. And Anthem also picks up their 6th pick of the draft from the Free Jacks in the 24th overall pick, which is the last pick of the second round. They exchanged that pick for salary cap considerations, which we don't know. But that was today they went live. They went live on the trade wire after the MLR announced the final draft order. So that was a bit of scurrying around for me before this.
Yeah, some interesting stuff. Go ahead, Tim.
Comment on Peyton. I thought he really helped himself just with his general kind of workmanlike attitude at the Rising program. He was just awesome to have there. And I think, there's one of those guys that everyone wants on their team. So he'll do well.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, Tim, as we talked about MLR Rising, which, by the way, a great product. I thought the MLR, took it up a notch this year with this docuseries, as you said, about 150 hours of recording of tape, and they condensed it into about 54 to 56 minutes. And one of the things I was interested, because I've met Peyton before, I've seen him around the Midwest, of course, hailing, as James said, from Indiana University, was I was interested in looking at him. And one of the things they talked about is the fact he didn't have the best Bronco time. His 40 was good, but he wasn't like one of those guys where you look at his pure metrics and you go, yeah, that guy's got the goodies. But he's a guy that when it came to game time, he looked really good. I mean, in today's modern game, you need a back three that can all play the high ball, right? I love John, the bowling ball from Colorado and LA. John, oh shit! I know
who you're talking about. Yeah.
It'll come to me.
So I would say Peyton had that factor. If when you were in school and you're choosing up sides for dodgeball, you choose the guy because he can he can throw, he can run, he can jump, he can duck, and just a good athlete. So.
Yeah, John Rydberg was a guy I was thinking of. I mean, John's a tremendous athlete, scored, I think, 2 seasons in a row. He had the most tries in the league. But, at 5'10", he just, he was exposed a little bit on the edges. But a guy like Peyton Wall goes up with a heart of a lion to fetch ball and come down with it. Under those conditions were horrible, right? Just horrible. And he came down with the ball. I thought he really showed the metal that he is made of at its core, and that's heart. The GM's talked about how important that can be. So, an interesting one there at number 12, the last pick in the first round. And that was via Old Glory via Anthem via New England. And that went to Ray Santiago. He's an interesting selection, because for the people that don't know, he didn't start playing rugby till a year or two ago.
The kid, he's a beast. Like, he's an absolute leader. When he would go out there, you can tell he hasn't been playing rugby forever, but there was no hesitation in him whatsoever. He's not like a pack guy that's like, oh, we got to run again. He's super fit, super intuitive. I was very impressed with him at MLR Rising, not just on the field, but his general attitude. Good guy, just good guy.
And it was quite an interesting note there. Sorry to interrupt there, Rob.
No, go ahead, James.
He wrestled prior to tennis rugby, and that tends to be quite a good crossover there. If you look to the likes of Corey Daniel, who's an absolute tackle machine, that tends to be a good thing, especially for a forward, a lock.
Yeah, and Alec, you're shaking your head, and I think I know why.
Wrestling creates the best rugby players. I feel like if you're gonna have a transfer athlete, wrestling and football, I mean, wrestling is probably the better of the two. To probably that correlates better, I feel like.
Yeah, and just take a moment if you would. I mean, again, as a player, as a guy who's bringing new young teammates on, do you have any concerns about having a kid that doesn't have very much rugby experience, or do you look at it like, hey, here's a kid that I can take under my wing and mold him and teach him a lot, and as long as he's willing and able to learn, this guy's ceiling can be enormous.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to learn, people are willing to teach, and if you're willing to grind and show progress, then that's all that really matters. If you're getting better every day, it's one of the best assets to have is to be the head nose of the grindstone kind of guy.
Absolutely. So now we're into the second round. We've got 2 picks into the second round. Anthem get another selection. EJ Freeman, center from University of Arizona. Again, here's a guy, I don't know that we saw him at the top of a lot of draft boards. What do we know about EJ? Do we have a lot of knowledge on him, or is he kind of one of those guys that's flying under the radar?
I do not. I wish we got to play cross country more. I mean, I don't know him that well.
Yeah, it's one of the downsides of being such a big country, right? Is geography is one of the biggest challenges for North American rugby. Well, but at number 14, New England select Matt Carrion, a flanker from Life, vaunted, well-known program out there in the East Coast, a guy that showed out at MLR Rising. What do we expect from this guy in 2025?
It's going to be interesting because Jack just went back-to-back with back row picks. And, that's something they did last year. They drafted center back-to-back, Gabe Casey, Junior Gaffa. So, it's not something clearly that they're afraid to do, but that's going to be another logjam situation. If you got Weon Conradi coming back, Ethan Fryer, Seta Baker signed last year, Jed Melvin signed back last year. Now, these guys are going to be expected to compete for time. It's not going to be readily available to them. So I'm excited to see what they can do, especially in camps in the preseason, to see what they can do to make a name for themselves against some of those more established guys.
And Jacob,
if they can compete with those guys, Jacob, they're going to be a hell of a player.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, there's 2 things there that are kind of interesting. Number one, I mean, if there's an environment that Matt Carrion can go into and really have an opportunity to swing for the fences and make it on this roster, it's New England, because they play in the ARP actually through Mystic River, and it's quite a good fall kind of prep league. And Alec, did you do any play in the ARP when you were with Houston at all?
I did with the HGX, like their academy, and then they did a fall where they did some of the players stick around and play with them. But yeah, we played Life and Mystic River and all those people going over. So, but it was competition to stay fresh in the fall, stay fit and everything. So,
is that? I mean, if he does well there, will that be a pretty good barometer?
Yeah, I believe so. Like if it's good gauge because the level is high. So I know a lot of the Free Jacks guys, they'll play Mystic River, I think, and then I knew a lot of the New York guys would go play for Nyack and Old Blue. But I don't know how many numbers they'll have this year because of the New York fold. But yeah, no, the Tridents, Miami Tridents are part of the ARP now too, and I've been currently playing with them for training to get a few games in this fall as well. So they just won the Division II championship this spring, so they're trying to make the move up and get in the ARP as well. So it's good. It's good level for the fall.
Yeah, some really interesting picks here, and I'll kind of recount them, and I want to talk about one of them here in a moment. And I'm sure Tim has a lot to add because he saw him play out there in July. But Jacob, I want to go back to you real quick on this Matt Carrion pick because he was such a leader at MLR Rising. It was a well thought after kid, with such a deep back row. And you mentioned Junior Gaffa. He went out on loan and was Rookie of the Year. Do you suspect that maybe New England might be willing to loan him out to the Anthem, or do you think they're gonna keep him and invest in him a little bit and see if they can plug him in some opportunities?
It could go either way. It really could. I don't think they're afraid to loan them out, especially after Junior did so well winning Rookie of the Year with them. But I wouldn't expect it to be long term in any case. Maybe one season because Junior, once he started showing out, immediately the tone out of the Free Jacks camp was okay, now we got to bring him back. And we can't leave him down there. So I don't think they would be opposed to loaning him out, get something in return, get him some minutes, allow him to play, cut his teeth, just like Junior Gaffa did. But long term, if he can win it, he's going to have a place in this team for sure.
That might be a hell of a gamble as well for Free Jacks to pick players on the assumption they can loan them out. Anthem have a full off season under their belt now. They have draftees. Last year they had 6 weeks. They might not be as desperate. They probably won't be as desperate to take on these loanees. They'll have a team this year.
And I think it will be interesting to see how that piece materializes, right? Because on one hand, the Free Jacks might be willing to loan him out just simply because they know it's an opportunity to give him game time that he might not get with New England in his first season. Let him season, let him mature, and then bring him back and be nothing for the worse for it because they get an American-born player, an American roster spot back in return. So watch that one, folks. Real quick, going through, the last couple picks at 15, Old Glory selected Aiden Ridgway, a scrum half from Ark State. Utah, Amon Sagala from BYU, hometown boy. I don't think that should surprise anybody. It seems to be that Utah likes to pick, BYU guys because they have a tight-knit community, especially a poly community there. And the Mormon community is real tight-knit. This was one I wanted to talk about, Tim. Aaron Juma, kids from Zimbabwe. There's some question as whether he has an ability to make that American jump or that, can be in an American spot at some point, given that he's done some, underage representation. Can you speak to a little bit on that?
I can speak to what I think, but I don't think that's really relevant to what will actually happen. There's a lot of shifting sands right now as of shifting sands, I mean like today with information going back and forth on what would classify someone as USA eligible or USA registered. I think I have a clear understanding of that. And I know that the kids that I work with, and I know that a couple of the universities that are in our league in Rugby East to the north, to the south, and to the west of us are all in good shape. But I really don't want to comment on someone else's eligibility, and I'm not ducking it, but I really don't have
I get it.
100% defined answer.
I think we could probably have a 45-minute conversation on World Rugby's changing
Yeah,
regulations.
and let me talk about Aaron Juma, the person.
Yeah,
I've coached against him. He's good. Like he's really good.
Strong runner, strong carrier, strong tackler.
He was a natural leader at the MLR Rising. It was interesting for me, for some of the guys that, you know, we're competitive and we want to play life, and we want to play Lindenwood, and we want to, you know, play Wheeling and play this. So to see guys behind the scenes, the tall kid with the dreads from Lindenwood, Alec, I apologize, I can't remember his name. Great guy, super guy.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I got to know him really well at the MLR Rising program. So, like, can't say enough good things about him. So from that standpoint, it was kind of like old school, where you, like Rob, like back in the day when you get to know people after the game, or you would stay at their house. So all these guys were essentially, all these guys. Well, today that social piece, for whatever reason, and I know some of them, has dropped out. But it was like, I kind of had these guys at my field and at my house for a week. So Aaron Juma is one of them that stood out as, if you're carrying a couple, you know, like a cooler, he'll hold the door for you, or he'll, you know, look at me and go, "Hey, you're old. Let me carry this for you." Like that kind of good guy. So I can only say nice things about Aaron Juma. I hope it works out for him.
I think you were talking about from LaDon Mathis from Lindenwood.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome guy. Awesome. Just super nice kid. You know, good leader, strong.
I can make a bit of a comment here about Aaron Juma, because his coach, I forget your name right now, but he's been very active in the MLR rugby.
He posts a lot. He posts
in the subreddit, and he offers a lot of clarification, a level of communication that you don't usually get, which is very much appreciated. And you know, from what I understand, is Aaron is looking for eligibility through residency, and with the whole change to World Rugby rules, don't really know quite where that stands. But first off, I wanted to thank the coach. Like I said, that's a level of communication and transparency we don't usually get. Is very much appreciated. But he's, by all accounts, Aaron Juma is a guy who's here to play, wants to play in MLR, not just, oh, I like rugby. He wants to play in this league for this country, which I'm very excited to see how he turns out. Not excited that he went to a division rival, but very excited to see what comes from his career.
It's funny, Tim, you mentioned LaDon Mathis, where it picked, you know, just this end of the second round, pick 24, and LaDon Mathis gets picked up by Anthem, and they're featuring him right.
He just got picked.
Yeah, he just got selected by Anthem.
He's going to be good.
Yeah. Alec, you know, I want to bring you back to the conversation. You know, did you know, like, Juma reminds me a bit of a guy like Tinashe, or a guy like Emmanuel Albert, you know, big, strong, physical players, hard runners. They'll put you to the deck on defense, but when you're off the pitch and in the sheds, they are the most genuine, you know, individual you're going to meet.
Yeah, no, they're both good guys. I've known him since he was a freshman. He came in my senior year, I think. And then, you know, I give him calls every once in a while, even though we're on different teams. But he's a good kid. And then Tinashe, I think I get the strongest hug I ever see when I see him, going from playing with Houston. So no, it's good to have a guy like that wants to work. It's also a great guy to have. It's just easy to be around, you know. And you look forward to seeing your teammates in the morning when they're like that. So it's good to have somebody to work hard with like that. So
shout out to Emmanuel Albert. He's the most capped MLR draftee in league history so far.
Oh yeah,
and that's why we brought the stats man on. Love that bit of information. Just pulls it out of his back pocket. and shoves it out there for everybody to look at. I love it.
And shout out for Tanashi too, who's just signed with Ealing. I've got a soft spot for Ealing in the English Championship.
So, to recap, so we had Juma, then Dalton Musselman goes to NOLA at 18, San Diego. Hunter Chulahan stuff. Loosehead Prop goes to San Diego. Houston, Jake Negretti on the wing from St. Mary's. Seattle, Joshua Schwartz. Chicago takes Jake, I can't say that, Kennevac from Utah. Seattle takes Connor Williams, a tight end prop who was featured in MLR Rising quite a bit. And then Anthem takes LaDon Mathis. I want to go back for a moment and kind of zoom out a little bit more, guys. NOLA takes Dalton Musselman. And I'm a NOLA guy. Half my heart is, at least. But they pick a fly half. I thought this was kind of an interesting pick. Less to do with Dalton and more to do with two things. Number one, they have a young guy, former LU guy. Alec knows him well, of course. Reese Bota, that's there. They also have, their first choice fly half, and Rodney Iona. And then Dorian Jones was kind of suiting in there, although sustained an injury. Let's face it. I think, what do we have? One American qualified fly half playing in the league all season. Do we suspect that a kid like this can be developed and play for NOLA or anybody else?
I mean, it might be controversial and un-American to say so, but I don't think he's a fly half at MLR. I think Dalton is extremely skilled. We've had him play some amazing games. So I saw Penn State beat Navy before an Old Glory game in our kind of opener. And I would say Dalton was one of the primary reasons, but he wasn't playing like a classic fly half. He was playing like a very athletic outside center playing fly half. Now, that's not to say he can't play fly half. In games versus my team and in games I've scouted and in games where I was kind of like the field side administrator, he's not playing like a classic fly half. He's playing like a very good, maybe smaller sized outside center or a very skilled wing. I don't think he's a fullback. But that's just my opinion. I don't want to be the homer that sits here and goes like, oh, this guy's a nice guy. This guy's a nice guy. I think my analysis of him would be he's not going to be an American fly half, but hopefully I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
That's interesting. I was going to say before Tim said that, I was surprised that Anthem didn't go for a US fly half. But now knowing what Tim said, he's probably not going to be a fly half at MLR level. The little profile I have here says he's already USA Sevens, so he's clearly a good player. He's clearly a high level player.
I swear I saw him jump like a 40-inch vertical leap one time to grab a ball. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, who was that? And it was Dalton. He's just a good athlete, but I just don't think he's a fly half.
If you had to put him in a position, Tim, where would you put him? Center or wing? Or something else?
Probably wing to start, but that's a comment on my lack of knowledge of backlines. I mean, what am I going to do? Say, oh, he's got. I watch enough rugby. I'd say I'd start him at wing and move him into outside center because he's just quick, physical, athletic, almost like a free safety in football is my impression of him.
Yeah, and let's go to real quick on that note. Chicago last year, they pick up Noah Brown from Indiana University. Here's another kid who is a tremendous sevens player. I don't know what position Noah. I think he might have played center at IU, but they moved him to the wing. Does Dalton have that kind of physicality that on par with Noah Brown?
I wouldn't know Noah Brown that well, except I think we played them in sevens. But I would say Dalton's tough. I mean, he's tough. Like no playing in that league, Rugby East, to come back. I think he was coming back from injury last year, but he played, I believe he played 5 years. Don't quote me on that. And I don't sense any quit in him whatsoever. So I think he would do quite well at any position where he's not having to serve as the primary pivot. It's a tough. I mean, people underestimate how good MLR is. I'll sit there. I would sit there sideline and I'd listen to guys like I had played men's rugby with at some point talk about like, oh man, you know, I in my day I would have been able to step into that. I'm like, bullshit, you would. Like there's that. It's so physical down on the goal line, and I would say, you know, I'm lucky enough to get into some pretty cool games through people I know, like Pro 14, and get right down onto or like Premiership games. I would put the physicality.
That's why I want to be your friend, Tim.
Yeah, well, I love that stuff. I'm like total fanboy. But I'm telling you, MLR, when you get down on the goal line, I think it's right up there. Maybe it's the fact that we're not super creative yet and we're not creating space. So you get a log jam in the center of the field or in the area you're attacking. But it is just absolutely world-class physical, I think, down there.
I think so, Tim. I think we're all MLR fanboys. One of us plays in the damn league, and the rest of us are on a podcast about it. So you're in good company.
So, Alec, I want to bring you in at this point because what Tim's talking about is, you know, that goal line, that pick and go, which we see a lot of in the MLR, a lot of that rolling maul from a line out. You know, we know that's about 33% of the scores in the MLR come from that. What kind of adjustment does it take? Will it take some of these young forwards who are coming in as draftees now to make that physical leap? Like, what are they going to have to do in the weight room? What kind of time are they going to have to put in to close down that curve?
Yeah, you definitely have to show up strong. You have to show up fit, because you can be as strong as you want, but as soon as you got to run in that preseason, you don't hit as hard anymore when you're out of breath, you know. But it's just, you just gotta like better yourself as an athlete, getting ready for it. You gotta be ready. You know, I mean, even the timing is all like different. Like, you gotta be looking up at defense while you're already on the ground to make sure you get in the right place. Like, you know, as opposed to, like, you know, in college, it's a little slower where you could. Sure, it was fast, but you could get up and take some time, and, you know, because the ball wouldn't be out as fast. But I've had guys compare it to, like, it's kind of like they say, like, it's close to Curry Cup, like the guys that have played outside of the U.S. Like, it's close, like, physical wise. I think they say the speed is is not as fast, and it's the skills aren't as there yet. But they say it's like the contact there. That's one thing us Americans are pretty good at, is hitting people. But other than that, it's the ball skills and getting around the, you know, just knowing the IQ of rugby and stuff like that we need to work on the best.
Kind of goes back to Tim's point. You know, I mean, when this league started 70 years ago, it was kind of a step above men's club level, right? It was, you know, some of those better guys in men's club could make that leap, make that jump into the MLR and feel pretty confident and comfortable. I don't know that that's true anymore. You know, we've seen a couple guys like a Nick Feeks come down into D1 men's club level rugby, and of course lead that LU team to a national championship. But, you know, he was a consistent starter for a lot of years there. And it's the physicality is incredible. Like Tim said, when you're on the sideline watching, just to see those guys hit, you know, when I watch Julian Dominguez, like the physicality that dude just brings to the pitch is unreal. You know,
the next time you see Jamison Fanana Schultz play, like watch him go from breakdown to breakdown. He is just like a butcher. Like he has zero regard for his own body, and like it's hard to learn to watch a player and not the whole play. But I try to train myself to watch a player, and when I would watch Jamison in games, I'm like, damn, he's Corey Daniel again, another one. that was in my world. But the physical, yeah, it's definitely a different level from college rugby.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk a little bit about, as we've gotten through, I think we're on pick number 36, Emmanuel Lai from Santa Clara goes to New England. So we're through all the rounds here. So what do we got? 36 selections. We've got, what are the stats here, boys? 20 MLR Rising attendees were selected. 27 D1A players. We have our answer. 27 out of 36 D1A players, 6 NCR players, 3 Canadian players. I gotta ask, guys, and this is way too early, but you know what? We're pundits. Well, 4 of us are pundits. One of us is just an all-out baller dude. But way too early rookie of the year predictions out of this core group, because that's one of the requirements for rookie of the year. You gotta have been in the draft. So all these guys are putting their hand up to be in the draft, to be a rookie of the year candidate.
Rob, I think we skipped a few of them and I apologize because I don't have them in front of me. Who were 28 through?
Yep, I can read them off.
Okay.
It's a great point to bring about here. 28, Utah selects Cole Simu from Brigham Young. Again, that's their second BYU candidate that they picked up. We know how important it is for culturally to continue to build that culture there. At 29, Old Glory, Sebastian Schefferman. I like that pick. Tim. You have some familiarity. Imagine you wanted me to go back and talk about him.
Well, I just saw him an hour ago. I knew he would be in there somewhere. So he has pro body, pro skills.
Then we've got Utah via Nola's selection, Nick Andriana from Adrian College. It's a flanker. San Diego selects at 31. Daniel Bray showed out really well at the MLR Rising. LA gets 2 picks in a row at 32 and 33. Tomasin, I don't think there's a surprise with either one of these guys. If I'm not mistaken, both of them are California products. Tomasin came from University of California, Berkeley. And then Leighton Dalzell from St. Mary's also goes to LA. So, you're talking about 2 guys that are right around in the area, so that shouldn't be a shocker. Chicago picks up Alex Hernandez from Marian University, right there just north of Indy as a loose head prop. Seattle selects Jamie Armstrong at fly half fullback from Canada, Ottawa, University of Ottawa. And then New England selects Emmanuel Lai, scrum half from Santa Clara. And that's closing out the draft there. So now we have an opportunity a little bit to talk about some of this. I tell you what, fellas, here's what I want to do, and I apologize. So let's come back, have a think about maybe who might be that rookie of the year here. And when we come back, we'll talk about that and kind of dissect this draft a bit. But I want to make sure we pay homage to our sponsors over there at Rugby Now. Who power Shop MLR. So I want to get to that right here, and then we'll be back in about 30.
When we pick up the ball, we also pick up a legacy. A legacy that stretches beyond your current team. A legacy built on the backs of those who came before you with hard work. And for those who will come after you, we promise it won't be easy, but we'll be there, supporting you on and off the field.
All right, we're back. As I said, let's talk about way too early rookie of the year predictions. I guess you'd have to look at probably the first, 5, 10, right there. Storty, Trainer, Irig, Kyoshi, Panther, King, Wakovesi, Aguero, Law, Wall. What are you guys thinking?
I'll also point out that a rookie of the year might not come from the draft. So
I think they have to be drafted to be eligible.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
They can't just
I think
be.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Undrafted love.
Well, if that's the case, they definitely don't need to come from the first round. Junior Gaffa, remember last year, he was the second round pick from New England.
Right.
So it could really be any one of these guys who puts their hand up.
Right. What was he 14? Is that right? Does that sound right? Or 16?
I think he might have been 14. I don't know. I need to go back through last year's, but yeah, he was drafted in the second round.
He was 23rd.
20. Oh. Okay, I was very wrong.
So back end of the second round.
Was it Gabe Casey at 13 then?
Yeah, Gabe Casey, okay. which was first round because there was 39 picks. So. Technicality, but yeah, he was in the second round.
I think it's going to be a backline player if there's a rookie of the year. That's just, I don't know. I just think it's easier for a backline player, although there's no data. It's just in my mind that it's easier for a backline player to get good minutes.
Well, I mean, sure. Go ahead, James.
I was going to say there's all kinds of things. Like, yes, it's probably easier for a backline player to get good minutes. You also have to consider like which teams are these guys going to get more minutes on.
Right.
It's probably leaning towards Anthem, but
correct.
You know, which I mean, they've got 6 picks. There's plenty of choice still, but like they're probably going to have more minutes on average than other draftees.
Well, that's kind of an interesting point, James, because you know, I think 2 guys that were right up there, of course, were Gaffa as well as Noah Brown, and then you had Rick Rose, and so you have 2 backs, you have a forward. All 3 of those guys were in consideration. Rick Rose, of course, plays a ton of minutes with Miami. We talked about that with Alec. You have Junior Gaffa gets, is loaned out to the Anthem from the Free Jacks, so he gets an opportunity, gets quality minutes. And then you have a guy like Noah Brown, who made a significant contribution to Chicago this year. In my mind, one of the best tries I've ever seen from the season, just individual efforts, came from Noah. But, you know, he really, I think he played like 9 games because he's playing behind Nate Augsburger and Julian Dominguez. You know, so I think that's an interesting point, James. Perhaps if he would have gotten 16 games, Noah could have got in there and really staked a claim to that title. All right, so let's talk a little bit about post draft. Okay, was this a good draft? What do we think about the results here?
This is so, I mean, so different for me. In all the past drafts, I was evaluating everyone and I didn't have a ton of insight. And now I had a ton of insight, but I wasn't really supposed to evaluate anyone until you called me the other day. So I don't know. It's just like, I feel like I know too much and I'm biased towards the guys that I saw a lot of. So it's really hard for me to be subjective, but I think any time that you have 36 players getting, with this kind of focus on them, I think is a good thing for American rugby. So yes, a good draft.
Good draft. Other thoughts here? Jacob? Yeah.
Definitely say it's a good draft. I think, the Collegiate Rugby Shield was a nice touch, but I think MLR Rising really gave much more of an insight into collegiate players, and it has been widely available before. I think it was, from my standpoint, it was a lot easier to see the guys, get exposure to them as opposed to meeting them as a name on the screen coming out. And I think you look at the number, 20 of them were Rising attendees. There were a couple more of them who were invited but couldn't participate. So you have this really strong scouting structure set up, which is going to make the draft much easier. Hopefully it's going to make land more hits, land more guys, increase, strengthen that pathway between college and the league.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt just a second because we have some special guests. We've got a trio here. We've got the SM St. Mary's College boys, all 3 of them draftees. They're going to jump on together and we can pepper them with some questions. Let me throw them on the stage here. Yeah. What's up, gents?
Hey, how's it going?
Congratulations. It must feel great to have all 3 of you guys be selected in the 2024 MLR draft. How does it feel?
It's real exciting. And kind of to all be here together is a pretty cool moment too. So we're really excited for sure.
And
Yeah.
Erica, while we have you, you got, I mean, boy, life-changing moments for you in this last couple of weeks, right? I mean, drafted, you know, you're kind of getting your feet wet in the Eagles camp.
Yeah, no, real exciting, and I think it's real motivating too. So, you know, keep working hard, and I've been lucky enough to be around great people. I have a really, really strong supporting crew. So, very, very lucky, and hope to keep working hard and keep it up.
And you know, I mean, right there we got, you know, again, 3 guys in the draft. Junior, talk a little bit about, you know, your excitement. You know, you kind of went into the draft as a fly half. You know, is that where you really want to get your feet wet with an MLR team? Do you want to be there at kind of pulling the strings with the team and getting experience there and cutting your teeth there? What are your kind of expectations?
Going into it, I'm just trying to fit in wherever they need me to. If that is scrum half or fly half, I'm happy to do either or, but I'll probably go in as fit as a scrum half, hopefully, and be able to play both. So I think that would be the best move moving forward.
And you wanted to stay on the West Coast. Did it matter to you? I mean, it's kind of nice that you're right there sticking around you know, near the beaches and shores.
Definitely. I'm excited to stay closer to home than most other teams would offer. So that's definitely an added plus, being able to stay in California. And
Kaipono, you're going to New England. I mean, that's got to be exciting. Back-to-back champs. We have Jacob, who's a New England fanboy. Jacob, I know you probably want to ask Kaipono a question or two, being that, you know, he's coming to your house.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. You know, welcome to the show. It's we got high expectations here. Clearly, I'm looking forward to just seeing you get out on the pitch with the boys. My question for you, you know, as a fan, really, is: are you coming in ready to work? Are you gonna come in? We talked earlier in the depth. We got a lot of back row depth. Are you coming in to, you know, make a name for yourself, make a bit of a statement here in your first year?
Yeah, of course. I think coming from a great school like St. Mary's, you know, we share similar cultures with the blue-collar mentality. You know, we just work, and, you know, the results will speak for themselves. So I was aware of the back row talent, and, you know, I'm not shying away. You know, competitiveness is in my blood, so just ready to, you know, get that, you know, starting spot every week and see how that goes.
Absolutely. Sorry, Alec. We have Alec McDonald from the Miami Sharks here. Alec, can you know, real quick, and I don't mean to horn in, but can you just offer one piece of advice to the boys as they start to think about what their next steps are coming to an MLR team?
Just be ready to learn. That's the main thing. Is just be ready to learn. You know, it'll all come sooner or later, but that's the one thing is keep your ears open. That's all I got. That's the main piece of advice from me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all 3 of those guys showed that they want to do that. Eric, just real quick, I want to talk about something a little bit off the field. We know that, you know, it's tough to make a living in the MLR. Everybody hopes to do it. They hope they make you know, good money, but it's tough. You got to have a kind of a side gig. I saw that you want to get into property management, construction, that sort of thing. Other opportunities, you know, have you started to look at opportunities out there for you to kind of hone your craft outside of rugby?
Yeah. Actually, right now I'm finishing up my MBA, so I got 3 weeks left in that.
Nice.
And I've been doing a commercial real estate internship.
Okay.
With the St. Mary's Rugby alumni. Ryan Martens has been unreal and awesome for us, teaching us so much. And they actually have an office out in Charlotte, funny enough. So hopefully I'll make a couple calls and maybe I'll keep doing that.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
That works out, man. I mean, look, folks, I didn't even script that stuff. I just kind of wanted to ask a little bit of insight into the off the field stuff. And Storty, man, if he's as good on camera with his answer and locking into this show as you know, and he transferred that onto the pitch, oh man, the Eagles and the anthem are going to be tight as we will see in 2024 and 2025.
There is a tremendous off the field network in Charlotte. Hey guys, Tim Brown here. When I played time in Ireland, and when I came back, that's how I wound up in medical device sales and marketing. One of the Charlotte old boys set me up with a sweet gig, and that was absolutely life-changing. But that was, I didn't do anything special. It was, I played rugby and he said, "Do you want to work?" So it's a good place to be.
Sweet.
All right. Hey, gentlemen, I know your time is valuable. I got to ask, and this is a question to all of you. This is a question I ask a lot of guys. So tonight it's probably going to be kind of special. You're with, each of you are with your two lads that you run with, that you've hung with, that have got your back every single match, every single day for the last 4 or 5 years. So let's just say you guys are going out. You guys are going to have a little celebration, a little fun to, to ring in the next step of your life. There's 3 of you guys. Whoop. Uh-oh.
They're having so much fun.
They're having so much fun. They said, "We got to get the hell out of here.
We got to get out of here."
Well, maybe they'll come back and I'll ask my question. We'll see. But we wish them luck, and we sure appreciate that they were willing to jump on the show. And I think one of them is ringing me right now. Other insights from the draft. We have three first rounders there. Is there a favorite to be that rookie of the year right now? That's kind of the question we left off at.
I for lack of a better term, I bet we could all agree that Storty is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just
that would be quite the boring answer, but I mean,
yeah, that's the easy way out. But when you're he's going to get a lot of minutes there at Anthem, coming from that center position.
Yeah, that's what we said. I mean, Tim said probably a back row. I said, Anthem's probably going to get higher minutes. He's both of those things. So might be a cop out, but I think it's the answer.
You know what? I'm going to be the oddball out. I'm going to go for Calvin, my fellow Miami Shark.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, man, support the home team.
You got to.
There you go. It was Storty. He just texted me. He's like, "Hey, Pono's phone overheated." So I'm going to see if I can send him the link and get those boys back and ask my magic question. How dangerous would it be if we saw Storty come back with a GAFA for one more season? There they are. What's up, boys? All right, the California Heat's getting to the phone, huh?
Yeah. I mean, always something with St. Mary's, so sorry about that.
So no worries. I just have one more question, and here it was. So I was setting it up. So there's 3 of you guys. You're going to go out. You're going to have a celebration. Tell me 2 questions here. Who are the 2 boys that are joining the crew here? That's number 1. So who are the 2 boys that are joining you guys to go out and celebrate? And number 2, if you could pick any car to roll in for the evening as a core of 5 guys, as an entourage, who would it be?
The one I know one person I'd take out with me. Timothy O'Brien, our head coach. He's kind of
you're gonna take coach with you.
Yeah, our head coach.
Keep you out of trouble?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Trying his best.
Get us in more trouble. What car are we going in?
We always go in Pono's car wherever we go. So he's our glorified driver. He's the best driver we have.
I'd say I would pull up in a Volkswagen minivan, one of those retro ones. Have some nice air conditioning in there, of course. We'll go red, white, and blue for St. Mary's. That's the color of the car right there.
All right.
I
love it. I love it. Well, hey, boys, congratulations. Well earned. A lot of work put in, some benefits reaped here, but we have another chapter to turn over in all 3 of your guys' lives. And I want to thank you so much for your willingness to join. I want to congratulate you from all of us here on screen. And for me personally, from the Rugby Rant, the big guy, Scott Ferrara, you guys have a green light. I'm going to hit you up this season, maybe in the off season, and then later on in the season to jump on the show and do an in-depth run, pass, or kick interview. We're going to put you to the test and have a bit of fun in the process. Thank you so much. Enjoy the night. Don't cause too much trouble for Coach. And be good, gents, and we can't wait to see you in 2025.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Good luck.
Cheers.
Congrats, lads.
All right, we're going to bring another guest on here in short order, somebody that Alec is very familiar with, I believe, and that is none other than Coach down there in Houston, former member of Rooney, former member, short member of Dallas. I know he coached the Jesuit team down there, high school team, to a state championship. It is none other than good friend of the show, Mikey Brown. Oh, and one more thing to add, the father of two twins who I swear to God can make 2/3 of a front row right now as we speak. Those boys are lit up.
A little more scrum training. What year in the MLR draft are we gunning for here? Let's round them up. Hopefully first round picks, right?
Yeah, well, we get Alec to come back to Houston, right, and get him trained up to get train him up as props, and and you got the hooker position nailed down, and those guys will be lighting some Canadians up. Sorry, James.
They were good as Alec. I would be happy.
There you go. There you go. It's a hell of a compliment.
Corn barbecue, aren't you?
There we go. That's why we're in Texas.
So, Mikey, you were involved in draft, and that's why I asked you to join, and you're so gracious to do so. Here are your picks. At number 8, you had Alex Aguero, flanker from University of Cal Berkeley. Tell us what you like about Alex.
Yeah, he's explosive, fast. We need to be a little faster around the park going in 2025. He fits the connection to not what he just does on the field, like I mentioned, but off the field, he brings someone that immediately is going to step up in our culture and move us forward to our goals next year. So, you know what kind of person you're getting into, a person you draft from the University of California. We had a lot of success. We have, guys like Danny Barrett, Christian Dyer, Nick Boyer, Max Schumacher last year, all great men on and off the field and know how to be professional. So he brings that professionalism into the building day one. He's quick, good over the ball. That brings a little different from our team that we felt like we were missing from last year. He had great recommendations. When I talked to him, I really enjoyed chatting to him. I asked him, what could he bring off the field? And the words that he's described is grit. He wanted, grit, something that he can bring. And, I'm really excited that we were able to get him at number 8. He was top 5 in my big board. So to give him at 8, we felt like we had good value into that.
Wow. So he slid compared to what you thought he would go, he slid a little bit, but hey, look, anybody in the top 10's got to be chuffed because, and certainly going to a team like Houston with, the way you guys played during the regular season last season. I got to ask, like I've always wondered, having never been there, I've been a poser and a pretender most of my life. So I got to ask, when you meet with young guys at MLR Rising, I mean, Tim has talked about having been there and gotten to know the guys, some of those guys walking into his basement, playing his pinball machines in the basement. He got to know him pretty well, got to know him off the rugby pitch, which is important. Is there like one of those test questions that you ask them that gives you a little insight as to what kind of person they might be? How do you find out about that personality and what kind of person you're getting?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if there's any set questions I particularly have. I just like to have the flowing conversation, what they know off the field. For me, a lot of it, references are important to the player. Players, will tell you, how they really feel about other players. But talking to them off the field, there's obviously, like I just said, what's something that you bring, I ask all the guys, what's something you bring off the field is, when you're coming into an MLR environment, you're a rookie just like any sport, unless you're like a LeBron James, you're starting from, or you're number 1 pick in the NFL draft, you're starting usually from the bottom, you have to work your way up. So, to get that right type of guy and the right type of culture, a lot of people probably didn't see that with Mock Schumacher Schumacher last year. You as the fans, you only see X amount of things, but he really brought a whole lot of value into our culture and put us forward. And he's a very smart player, very highly respected within our team. And he did that, Sunday through Friday. And he's a good player, and we really believe in him. But those questions, asking, what would you bring off the table? Outside of rugby, that gives you a little more insight into them. But it's off the field is something that we really take pride in, and we really believe that it gives us huge value into our results, and we're really intentional into that off the field stuff. And I know the fans like to talk on the field stuff, but off the field stuff is very important for us in the recruitment process.
Were you there, Mike, for the first day when the fitness testing?
Not the fitness testing, but the evening.
Okay. Well, you could probably see how. I think in terms of when you were asking Rob how they evaluated. First of all, I think the GMs that were there, like Mike, probably got really good insight into the candidates. I mean, you just can't hide over the course of 3 or 4 days straight. But that first day, the guys that they did some basic fitness testing, then they ran the most brutal Bronco. Like it was, it was like, I think the heat index was well over 100 and the humidity was through the roof. And when they posted the times, I thought it was cool that MLR was super transparent. They posted the times. I saw a whole bunch of people criticizing them. I'm like,
right.
You have no idea what that was like. Like it was inhumane. And I will tell you, the guys from my school that were at MLR Rising, their Bronco time was like 20 seconds lower a few weeks later when we were in training camp. So it was like having them go from fitness testing to Bronco to training to full field train in the afternoon. It became really clear who had it in them and who didn't. I mean, it was,
that's a great point, Tim. I just think that if any of the guys that were, I want to go to Rising next year, just some feedback that I gave, I just thought that guys needed to be more ready for their job interview, throughout the day, and you couldn't hide throughout those days, and you could see guys who were ready and prepared and ready to be in shape, and guys, that worked. It was very clear and obvious, and like you said, going forward, hopefully those standards will increase because, we all want the standards to increase in North America. So, for guys, wanting to go to Rising, everything, that's a great event. Everything gets looked at, everything gets judged, and you really get to see a great insight into the player before, you potentially pick them.
Even the social piece of going to the Scotland USA game, you got to see how guys interact with their teammates and how they answer questions. I thought that was really valuable to see, and you just don't know someone when you sit down at a table for 30 minutes and do an interview, whereas you see them for 4 or 5 days straight at all hours of the day. It's probably a pretty good insight.
So Mike, let's talk a little bit about your second pick at number 20, the 8th pick in the round 2, Jake Negretti, a wing, St. Mary's. We had 3 St. Mary's products on the show just a moment ago, the 4 St. Mary's product pick there. What'd you see in Jake that you felt added value to the Houston SaberCats?
Yeah, I think he's another explosive player, fast player that will be able to put some competition to our backs. A hard worker. Also, the reason why he wasn't at Rising because he was getting his graduation walk was that weekend. But he's a very smart. I think he's in some type of science major that he had at St. Mary's. For me, it's another. What kind of guy you're getting at that school at St. Mary's. He started playing, I think, at the age of 12. 13, played at ERA, had an ERA background into him, worked his way up from St. Mary's C side all the way up to the A side. Obviously, there's a lot of talented players from St. Mary's, and he sort of got, lost in the mix there. But just him individually, he could play 13, 14, he even played some 9. For us at the pick 20, just to go, to a back, in my big board, I think he was 12th. To get that at 12th, to get that at 20, we're pretty happy with that, and just gives us some more explosiveness, some youth into our backs, and we want to just get faster. So, he just brings that, and we have like I just said about the Cal connection, with us with St. Mary's, we have Ronan Murphy that we brought in last year, and he's a great addition. So to have another St. Mary's guy, you know what you're getting from them.
And yeah, obviously, Christian Dyer parting ways with Houston had a really nice tribute. Thanked Houston, the city, the team, the organization, coaches like yourself, players that he played with. Is this a kid that can be of that ilk, that can work his way into a potential, put his hand up for Eagles like a Christian Dyer?
Yeah, anything's possible. To fill Christian Dyer's shoes is big for the young kid at a second round pick. For him to push the other guys like Samuel Smith, Jeremy Misalaga, and our other wingers that will sign. That would be really good for us to add in competition. Again, it was more off the field. Like I said, he started from C side at St. Mary's all the way, work his way up to A side. His dad played the game, got him in young, smart kid on the field that will, he's a very hard worker, very smart off the field. You know what kind of guy you're getting. So for me, the on the field, we feel like we can teach a lot. But the off the field thing is very important and what you can bring in. And like I said, we're very intentional on off the field stuff. And we feel like more off the field, if more people can, better human beings will produce better rugby players. So he fits right in there, and he's a hard worker. So, I know that, again, you're picking you're in round 2. It's a grind going into an MLR, atmosphere. So you need to have that type, and you got to have somebody that's going to persevere, and that's really going to be coachable for that. So he checks all those boxes.
I want to talk for a minute. I mean, Alec was talking about, ARP being involved, when he was with HTX, being involved in fall rugby, getting their feet wet, that's going to be a critical piece for a lot of these draftees. Can you just speak to what are these two guys, what's going to be required of them from here moving forward with Houston? When do I know you can't predict everything, right? They've got lives, they've got things they're doing in their own lives. But in an ideal world, for fans that are wondering, what kind of calendar might we expect them to hold starting now, moving, into the first week of training camp, whether it be January or February, we don't know yet.
Yeah, for us, just to be a little transparent, ownership decided to not keep our senior academy through that. So there won't be anything for us for in the fall. But for those two guys, they'll be on the West Coast training with San Francisco Golden Gate that they have close ties with. They get touches on the ball. And for us, we'll have voluntary stuff going in December. But if guys wanted to go play somewhere, overseas or a different club in the fall, I talked to both of them. That's okay. We have guys like, we're talking about Max Schumacher. He's down with the Turbos down in NPC with Emmanuel Albert. Wow. Ronan Murphy is going to play in Ireland, in the next coming weeks after he was done in Rugby Town. So we want to get guys touches the ball and let them have some development for them. So whatever, if we can provide that with them here, anywhere they can get those other touches. Jeremy Misalaga is playing with Old Blue in the ARP. Seth Smith's playing with Life in the ARP. So, we want to get better rugby players. You don't get better by just sitting around. So any of those guys that they have any, I've been pretty candid to them. Anytime they can get more touches on the ball, more matches, we want our guys to be getting 20 matches. That'd be great. 15 for some of the young guys. So anytime they get touched on the ball, no matter where they're with, we're fully supportive.
Awesome. It's all interesting news. I mean, there's a lot of shifting dynamics right now in the league. I think we're seeing that with what do we have before the draft or a few weeks before the draft? We have 5 head coaches that were head coaching vacancies. Those are quickly beginning to be filled, of course. We had a director of rugby position there at Houston. Heineke Meyer going back to South Africa. It sounds like Mike Pote will be kind of making a lot of those decisions in the vacuum left by that position.
Yeah, Pote's the man in charge. I love Pote. Alex, I know he and Pote's had a great relationship. He's a great man. I have a lot of time for Potes, and we share the same vision. The guys really like him, really rally around him. So, more just everything's, unfortunately, we love Heineke. It's just a financial decision from the ownership. Obviously nothing, from the results, but he wanted to go back to, South Africa as well. So, it was hand in hand. So, going forward in 2025, we really, Poach is going to lead the ship, and nothing really changes too much because Alec can attest, Poach just doesn't coach. He does the laundry. He does the laundry. He washes the practice jerseys, So if you have that type of leadership, that's someone that can serve. You got to serve before you can leave. You have that type of, serving leadership that gives you a lot of respect within, within the playing group and within the leadership group and even with the coaching staff. So just that just trickles down going forward. So, the playing group's really, really, really excited to have, Poach leading the charge.
It's funny, Mike, and I'm going to come to Alec here in just a moment because I want you to give your own insights on Pote. But for folks out there, my number one rule of leadership is don't ask anybody to, underneath you that you're leading to do something you're not willing to do yourself. And it sounds like Pote really embodies that. Alec, as Mike touched upon, you really had a good relationship with Pote. What did you like about him? What does he bring to the Cats that you really appreciated as a player?
Yeah, no, I actually, we refer to each other like I'm his rugby son, he's my rugby father. He got me back pretty much.
Hey, did he teach you how to box? Because he's got a pretty mean right hook.
That was a slap. That's a slap.
I was waiting for someone to bring that up. Yeah.
No, but I'd go to war for Pote. He's just like Mike said, he's pulling the jerseys. He's starting the laundry machine after the game. We're all getting the beer at the tent. So, but no, he got me back in. He saw me playing for HX in the fall, and I was getting ready to move back home to Missouri, and just playing the last bit of the season, and he decided to pull me up and got me back into the MLR. So I have so much respect and so much love for Coach Pote. So. He's a great man. He's going to lead the Cats in a great way.
That's good to hear. I appreciate that. All right, hey Mike. So before I know you're busy. You got two twins at home, and they're probably biting each other's ears and gouging each other's eyes, as front rowers are often very prone to do. But what's in store for the Cats in the spring? I know that there's some Sabre bros out there, big supporters of the Cats. What do we expect to see in 2025?
Yeah, I think a lot of motivation, unfinished business. We were really upset how the season ended. We got to learn from, grow from that. And I think there's a tight playing group, I think Pote put a video on social media, a lot of the squad's coming back. We're going to make strategic additions that we're, in the process of, and to make our squad just that, trying to make it that much better. But we realize the league is just going to keep on getting better. So we can't just stay the same as well. So a lot of the guys, obviously, you have the season like we had and fall short. There's going to be a lot of motivated guys and guys that want to run it back really, really quickly. So we just can't get to A to Z. You got to get to A, B, C, D, and that starts from our coaching staff and our recruitment standpoint. Then when the players get here, we really want to hit the ground running like we, had a good plan in 2024. So we're really motivated. We know that it's a long way to go, and I know the players are really motivated, but we love the fans and the Sabre Bros. They were, I have all the time and day for them. They the fans there are really passionate, and it's a growing fan base, and there's a lot of work that the back office staff is doing to connect with the game and rugby in Houston. We hope to grow on that. And I think they're heading in the right direction. We hope we can have some sellout crowds going to 25.
100%. And I have to get my tail down there again. I've been down to Houston once for D1A sevens championship and the final there that was between, I think it was that year, it was Navy and Cal, if I'm not mistaken. So Danny Barrett was crying in his soup. But, that's okay. He'll get over it. No offense, Barrett. No. So at any rate, a lot of good stuff happening. We can't wait to see how it goes. And just from Scott and myself, lots of love towards you, Mike. You're landing in a good place. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you're meant to do. We love the fact that you're down there in Houston doing what you do. You're super huge fans here at the Rugby Rant. We really love you, and wish you guys all the best. except for me when you play Chicago and NOLA. But no, we wish you all the best, and we wish you as a new father of twins, you and your wife, all the best and health. Much love, dude, and we appreciate you coming on and joining the show to talk a little bit about what's going on down there.
Absolutely, Rob. Love you guys too. Good to see Alex. Good to see everybody. Can talk anytime about rugby. Have a good night.
Cheers, mate. I want to circle around and get Jacob back into the fray here. Jacob, you had your first 20, your first 2 rounds selected, so 24 positions. And how did you do?
I did all right, I think. You know, it wasn't great. It also wasn't a perfect board. You know, I made it pretty early in the process. I would have had a few things different, but I'm overall it was solid. I think it wasn't too off, was it?
No, I think you had of the 24. You at least in your mock draft somewhere you had 15 of the 24 selections that were selected in draft. It's pretty solid.
Well, who do I'm curious with the immense amount of knowledge in this group, who was the team that won? Like, who won the draft? And I got so excited one year. I don't know if it was you, Rob, or who it was that said, when I was doing the draft with Old Glory, you said Old Glory won the draft. So that was like my Super Bowl. I probably scoured all of social media to find someone I said I won, but I think we did win that year. But who do you guys think outside of Anthem, just because they got sheer numbers of players? I think they're the winner just for the fact that they almost drafted a 7-side, right?
Yeah.
But who do you guys think won? Like what team did the best? I'll tell you mine if you want, but
I'll go around the horn. James, you have thoughts on this one? I'll give you first honors.
Sure. There's a few that I I like, although admittedly I think we were a bit distracted with a lot of the third round, so I wasn't quite dialed in on that one as much as usual. Yeah. I do like Seattle's picks. I know they picked two guys from the University of Ottawa, so maybe that's my bias living in Canada. But I do like those 2 picks. Yeah, why not go with Seattle? We'll go a bit off the wall.
Okay. Jacob, I know you're probably got a bit of bias there, but what the hell? We'll see what flies.
Oh, well, you know, I obviously love the Free Jacks draft, but if I'm trying to look at it impartial, I really like what Chicago did. You know, they only have 3 picks. I think they got good value. Alex Hernandez getting a loose head prop, you know, prop development in the league is huge. You got to, especially with so much set piece involvement. And then in the second round, Kinneveyak, Locke, the big Alaskan. You know, he's one of those guys who kind of flew under the radar, but I think he's going to be very good for him. And of course, Peyton Wall in the first round. He's an incredible talent. I believe he was just in Rugby Town Sevens with the U23s. You know, he's an incredible player, and they got him pretty far down the board for how talented he is. So I think they had a really good draft.
Alec, I'm going to come to you real quick because you're a resident front row expert. Jacob mentioned Hernandez. What for a kid coming out of college? You know, it's pretty hard to play front row in the MLR right out of the uni. What are some of the first learnings that a prop will have to pick up in order to make that leap?
I know from my experience that in college you're just stronger than everybody. So you can get away with a lot of things. You can make mistakes but fix it just by strong arming somebody. But if you make a mistake here, especially now that I'm learning tight head, there could be some damage done. So but the thing is just learning body position, learning all these kind of things like where to put your arm, how to put your head certain ways, how to use your chest and how to use this shoulder, foot placement, and how to, when to hit, when not to drive as strong as you can. There's so much science to it compared to what college was. College was just, hey, we're going to push this side so that they can get the ball better this side. You have expendable things to do, but in MLR it's do 11 things at once and do them all right, and then you won't get pushed back.
Yeah, I got to ask. Do MLR officials, I don't want to get you in trouble, so you can pass this question. Do MLR officials have any idea of what happens in the front row?
Not much. It's I've had one ref that was a former front row, and I was playing Dallas Harlequins for HTX, and I won every penalty. So that's you don't really get much of us as much front rows as refs, because we can't really run after our career, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Let's see. Tim asked a great question. Who won the draft? Do you want to answer your answer, or do you want me to go? Do you want the last up?
You go ahead, Rob. And then I'll finish.
I'm gonna say Anthem, but not for the reason that you necessarily
not just sheer volume. You're saying they got.
It's not just sheer volume. Because they. Brendan he loves the draft. Like he and Fitz, Sparksy and Fitz are probably two dudes that love the draft.
Oh yeah.
Like more than they love their puppy dogs. Like
Ryan talks about it year round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they don't have a big, purple mark in the middle of their forehead from Sporting Wood all the time when people talk draft. I mean,
those were the two guys that used to call me about college players, Brendan and Ryan, all the time.
Yeah,
all the time, year round.
Yes, and they love it. And why I like their draft is how they work themselves around in the draft order to get themselves in a position to have two picks right up front, to get number 1 and number 2, to make sure that they got the guys they want. They got yet a third pick in that first round, and then they were able to grab the first pick in the second round with Freeman, and then they still had they selected Staples, Ashanti Staples, who had a really nice story by the way in ML Rising. I love the feature on that kid. Had the first pick of that round where they that they already had. But my point is not just sheer volume, they move themselves into places where they could really maximize the value. So that's my answer. Tim?
Good stuff. So I think the owners know me well enough and the coach knows me well enough. I would be hypercritical of Old Glory if I thought it wasn't a good draft. I'm looking at what they did, and it just kind of all came together to me on my phone. They got salary cap space for their trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got Raymond Santiago that no one knew about, that was the physical leader in that MLR Rising. And
he's like 6'6", 240.
He's just a tough ass. Like if you were doing like Spartan Battle or something, you'd choose this guy. He's a big dude and he's smart. He's an RIP guy. All right. They got that little scrum half from Arkansas State. He's as skilled as anyone I've seen. They got Aaron Juma, and I'm not getting into eligibility or whatever. I'm just saying he's Old Glory's right now, and he's a physical specimen. He's a natural leader. And then they got Seb Shefferman, who I've known since he was in high school, who, when he was a freshman playing before Old Glory games, the Old Glory assistants were asking me when was he going to get out of school, and I'm like, 4 years. He's a sleeper too because he's getting married in May, and I will say he's married an American girl in May, so he won't take up the foreigner spot. I will say, and this is neither here nor there. I don't think I'm the world's expert on everything, but Ryan and the Old Glory coaches were the only ones that called me repeatedly, which is perfectly legal, saying, "What are you seeing? Go through this list. Who do you like?" I think Old Glory, without not having great picks, and again, when the owner calls me, I'm not going to lie to him. He's one of my friends forever, but I'm going to tell him that Simon Cross did a hell of a job with Richard Merriman, the GM, because again, they got extra cap space. All 4 bodies are MLR bodies, so they've got the build. Maybe the scrum half that needs to get bigger, but Old Glory is my winner there for just what they did with what they have and the end result.
That is interesting, Tim. I mean, I know you said you weren't touching on eligibility, but there's 2 South Africans and a Zimbabwean.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that in a minute. Yeah, I think that's a great point, James. I want to come back to that in a minute. I want to kind of ask Alec in a little different way, kind of a unique way through a different lens, perhaps his perspective, because I want to micro focus on Miami. In that Miami selections, Calvin Eyrig, of course, an LU guy. So real quick question to that. Are you going to be calling or getting in touch with Calvin in pretty short order as a former Lion?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably send an IG chat, see if he's up to, if he's coming down early or if it was. So, I'm always down to have the boys at the house. So
there you go. Take them out deep sea fishing, just introduce them to South Beach Lake.
We had a similar relationship with Tetu last year. Just, me and him would hang out, would go to the Philippine restaurant down the street, and
yeah.
And so, it's good to have new boys. I had Connor Burns living here for a month after the season too. So, I ride deep with the LU boys.
It's also good to have someone to run errands for the veteran prop.
Exactly. Go pick up my Firehouse subs.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then I want to ask you a little bit more here, and this is a little bit more serious question. With the other pick, Latoro Soto Anse, again another LU product, and I believe he's South American. I'd have to look and see where he's from. Tim's probably got it in the back of his mind and can recall it. Argentinian. How much of a language? Because we know there's a heavy Argentina influence in Miami at the Sharks. How much is that? Does it play a significant part in the team culture? A guy like Latoro, he's going to fit right in because he'll be able to speak the language. A guy like Calvin, who's has German ancestry, is traveled around as like a worldly view. I don't know that he's spending any time in South America. Is that a bit of a challenge for a new college kid coming in, or is it pretty seamless?
I mean, for the most part, most of the people know English, and we try to speak English as much as possible. But, obviously, I'm down to shoot the shit with my boys back in Missouri a lot, and talking my language. And so you'll have them talking Spanish because they can, I guess, show their emotions better in their native tongue. You get a lot of that, but for the most part, the boys are good down here. A lot of boys are even getting Spanish lessons, so we're all trying to be able to talk to them in Spanish. So it's fun. I try to rekindle my Spanish too from Francis Howell High School and see if I can remember much of it. So, but but for the most part, coaching is done. English, everything's English. There's some barriers there, but for the most part, they get the point across, so it's all good. But it's fun to have the different culture. Passing mate around in the change room and stuff like that. So it's cool to experience that.
Alec, hit me up afterwards. Maybe we'll see if we can get you a Babbel sponsorship, and we'll just...
Please.
I want to go back, Tim. You talk about Old Glory, how much you like their draft. And what's interesting is, we would go back to that, and James mentioned it. The guys who are not American, interestingly, Old Glory, at least through much of the season, a lot of their bench players, of their 8 bench players, 6 or 7 of them were domestic players. Of course, Calexico Martinez, a Canadian, actually featured this last weekend for the Canadian national team in Rugby Canada.
He's actually a dual.
Oh, is he a dual? Okay.
Yeah, he was my top guy a couple years ago.
So they've got 6 or 7 guys, every game that are on the bench that are domestic players. Do these kind of guys who are not necessarily domestic, does that kind of fit within the greater scheme of having that balance for Old Glory to be able to massage that 10-day or that 10-man foreign player roster on game day?
That was a really pointed question. I think was asked on the field about these guys, about the foreign players from every school. And you know, a little background on Seb. He's only been here 4 years, but I don't know what, you know, to me, he's just part of the town and part of the team and part of the culture. You know, the girl he's marrying doesn't even live that far from Old Glory Stadium, if you want to get really, really granular. So I wouldn't say he's going to be a foreigner for too long. So that will drop out. So then the two guys you're talking about, Juma, I think there's been a good bit of discussion, and that's who we were referencing earlier. If I was going to take a gamble on one guy, I'd gamble on him. Just the fact that he's kind of like, let's take the hill kind of leader. Like, I was very impressed with him. The scrum half, I don't know his background other than he was quite good. And I you know, and again, if you have, my opinion on that would be, if you have the space on your roster for a foreigner, and we now know what the rules are, where you have to be registered in order to earn that eligibility for the national team anyways. If I was a team, I wouldn't worry about I think it costs about $6,000 to get a visa, $5,000, $6,000. So that's just, if it's a good person, it's a good person, regardless of where they're from. And if you're already well under that foreigner space. Now, if they had maxed out the foreigners, I don't think any college kid is worth your last position if that's your strategy.
Gotcha.
But I'm not gonna second guess the coaches, other than I just know that I always think of people as people, and I'm probably not being realistic there from a MLR value standpoint, but I think of people as being people and good people, from, you know, no matter where they're from or what you want in your culture.
So you know Seb well, obviously, with the Reg 8 change. And for folks that don't know or didn't catch our Rugby Rant video I posted earlier, I think over the weekend, the new World Rugby rule is that they have to be registered for 60 months with a particular union. So in other words, you know, there at Mary Washington, you guys were CRAA, so you're automatically registered with USA Rugby. He was there for 4 years, so he's got, you know, 48 of those months, one would suspect, nailed down.
Yeah.
So, you know, do we suspect he could be qualified in a year or less?
In theory, and I mean, if we get really granular, it wouldn't be 48 months. It would be a little short, because he would have gotten here in August of. I mean, this will apply to a number of the boys in the draft. They would have gotten there in August, and they get out in May, so they're probably at 45.
Okay.
And I think this is going to change the way some of the schools register players too. I'm not quite sure how you could hold that against them, because USA Rugby registration usually doesn't open up. I mean, I'm getting really granular here.
Yeah.
Usually doesn't open up till August. So there would be no way to register earlier. Like if you find out you have your student visa, there'd be no way to do it earlier than that August period. A lot of kids go for a year of grad school, so that would be a natural fit. Or let's be honest, it takes a lot of kids. We rarely ever have 5th-year players here, but I know a lot of schools have 5th-year players, so that would fulfill almost that 60-month cycle.
Alec, I want to ask you real quick. I mean, having been around LU, I know that's, I mean, like 1 year I counted 60 players out of 90 were, you know, it came from other countries or foreign players. And so I know probably Josh does a bit of education. If I know Josh well, does a bit of education of those boys and how to navigate those regulations. You know, has this been a problem for some of these foreign players, in that they really haven't gotten the proper education how to navigate Reg 8, and do we suspect that this might help?
Yeah, I've known quite a few boys that have had aspirations to play in the MLR, but they aren't American eligible after 4 years or something like that, and so the teams don't want to give away a foreign spot for a college kid to go find something else like overseas already primed and prepped, So that's what I've seen a lot of guys just try. Yeah, they'll cut out and try to get to the draft, but they get looked off of, so they have to go to the academies a lot of times and try to win their way back up there just to prove that they're good. But the foreign spots is such a big value here that teams kind of overlook them.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I think we've been pretty locked in. Is there, Jacob, James, any thoughts on the night? Just overall, what are you looking forward to in 2025? Anything of that sort. Do we like New England to repeat? What do you think?
I'm never going to be one to bet on I'm never going to be one to bet on history. A three-peat's never been done before. I'm not going to go in saying championship or bust. But that being said, I would very much like if they did that again. That was very nice this season. No, I'm just looking forward to not only seeing the new guys, seeing all the old guys coming back, seeing who gets signed from other teams, who gets signed from other, maybe other leagues, who all is going to come together and then just come together and put out a great product on the field. MLR has been getting better and better every year that I watched it. The quality of rugby is improving leaps and bounds, and this season was the most fun yet. I'm just looking forward to seeing how this all comes together for another go around.
Potty, Wayne, and Reese, are they going to be back next year? Do you know?
I don't know for certain. I'm pretty sure at the very least Wayne is going to be back because Wayne
was sure he's on the contract. Yeah,
he signed a long-term deal with the intention of staying for quite a while. So I expect him to be back at the very least. Potty and Reese, you never know. They're both over in the NPC right now. Who knows what opportunities will open up for them over there? But we'd certainly welcome both of them back with open arms. That's for sure.
And James, your thoughts on the night? Any, as we start to look out on the horizon of 2025?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to throw a couple of numbers at you, this was the first draft that Lindenwood did not have the most successful draftees. They had 3. They were, among the top there, but St. Mary's had 6. That's the first time that they've topped that chart. No, I mean, maybe it's compared to last offseason where I lost my team. I'm really excited for this offseason. I am a massive nerd, obviously, with this kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing all these player moves beginning to hype up towards the 2025 season. I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah, 100%. And you're still going to be rocking the Chicago jersey next season?
We'll see. I haven't decided whether to do another poll or not, but I quite enjoyed being a bit of a neutral this year.
Yeah. Now, they certainly put on a nice show this season. At least they finished well. Tim, I want to give you an opportunity here. I mentioned at the top, you do some rugby tours. You're involved with your sales rep for World Rugby Shop. Talk about the rugby tours just for a moment.
Super exciting. I do a very complex array of tours. I do Ireland, and if you don't want to do Ireland, I'll also do Ireland for you. So we stick to the best, and there's so much rugby in these zip codes of Ireland. You can pack so much into a week, and it's intensive. It's fun. Every day we do history, we do team building, and we do rugby. So looks like we're going to be doing something with Munster's Academy to get the kids in there for a couple of days, get a look. We'll go to Pro 14 games. We're going to go to some AIL games. I still have a few spots open. I have it looks like I have a team from Maryland going this year. I have a team from Indiana, and I'm talking to a girls select side from out west. But I got a few spots open, so would love to hear from any teams that want to go, and it'd be kind of cool to take Rugby Rant with us to document how much rugby we pack into a week. I mean, it's literally nonstop rugby, and you get swept up in the culture of it. So It's a lot of fun.
Where can they contact you if somebody's interested in getting involved in a tour?
I put up most of the time it's like referrals from friends, but I put up a little Facebook page, Strong Lad Rugby. It's really straightforward. It's just Strong Lad Rugby on Facebook, and it's got pictures of past tours, and or they could message you and they can get in touch with me through you, or my cell phone's all over the place for rugby, so it's like I answer the phone 24
random
hours
women from Romania keep calling you.
Yeah, no, they don't play a lot of rugby that I'm aware of, but they call me asking for my bank account number, and there's no, I'm a rugby person, so it's not a good target.
Sorry to break it to you, babe. I don't have
like I'm in rugby. Do you know what that means? I'm broke. The other thing I'd urge people to do, and I'm biased, Rugby East right now is taking off, and it's like cutthroat competitive. And Scott Zavril does a great job on the Rugby East Facebook page and website of compiling all the matches. And I mean, this is Lindenwood is awesome. Obviously life's in Rugby East now, but that our league top to bottom, I am so excited about it this year. I really am. And all the matches are free to watch online. We have Army, Navy, St. Bonaventure, Kutztown, Mary Washington. Southern Virginia is going to be good. Like, they're recruiting from all over the place. Belmont Abbey is going to be good. These are the schools you're going to see start showing up in the draft. Like, I'm watching the messages go by of our guys right now with Seb being drafted. The level of excitement in this league, Mount St. Mary's, like Mary Washington versus Mount St. Mary's, there's so much talent on the field now. It's like you can't take these great games for granted, any of them. Like,
that's what college rugby needs, right? I mean,
it's
in order
awesome
to make that jump, we've talked about it with Alec. In order to make that jump, you need to have your front row guys need to have a battle day in and day out and learn how to hit those nuances of not just being the strongest guy in the pitch, but also having the best technique, right? And by doing that week in and week out and having being forced to learn the tricks of the trade, you become better at your craft, and you become obviously better prepared to take that step.
I mean, like Army last year, I mean, on the scoreboard, you look at it, it was like 40-20 or something like that. Our kids are so eager, and like Army's the favorite, right? They're recent national champions, they're Army, but I love the fact that our kids are like so eager to go play Army and to play Navy again and to play these schools, because we got to get better, but we can at least see the future of this is really exciting.
Alec, I appreciate it. You hung in there the whole time, and fitting in and really giving us an insight that I hadn't really prepared for, but I'm super happy that you joined. Big off season for Miami. I think that you guys are going to really make huge strides. I talked with Lucas, and I said, man, you guys really had a successful season. He said, you think so? I said, 100%. Like, to come in like you guys did, make a push for that last playoff spot, being a first-year team, it's really showed out. What are your plans for the offseason? Are you, most importantly, you're going to get up to Table Rock Lake to thread a line?
Yeah, I already did. Went the week after the week after the season. I got a flight up there, to have some good family time. Then came back down, just got a job as a Christmas light installer, so that'll be good. Since everything else is seasonal, it's hurricane season right now, so all the boats and stuff that I was hoping to work on left. So
oh boy,
so I'm doing that now, and trying to get my real estate license. So just keep training. I'm trying to train. The Midwest. As a Midwest boy, it's a struggle to train heat, but I got to get used to it.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. I just been training, working, and that's pretty much my plans for the off season.
Good, awesome to hear. And guys, I loved it. Everybody did a great job preparing. Did a great job contributing to the show. I mean, the fact that we're like into our second hour here, and we're still talking rugby. I love it. And I really want to thank everybody for jumping in. thank Alec for his willingness to jump in there. We kind of caught him, a little bit at the last minute. But we're going to have to get you on for a run, pass, or kick here in the off season and check in with you. And of course, Tim, just being involved with, what you do at Strong Lad. And then of course, with MLR Rising, give us those insights. And James always showing out with the stats that everybody's interested in, but nobody's willing to put in the hard yards to figure out. And of course, Youngblood, Jacob Schaefer, coming in strong with that draft board. You guys are all welcome back next season. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out tonight.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, folks at home, thanks for watching. We got a lot of folks, and I'm sorry I was trying to do multitask here. I didn't see some of those questions, but a lot of folks out there. Christina Lanham out there, of course, Dennis at Bayou Rugby Coverage. Mike Shepard, Liam Madigan. Of course, the big guy is checking in every once in a while with us, and Mrs. Hammer was even checking in spite of the fact she's playing bingo right now. Hopefully, babe, you're winning money because this ain't paying the bills right here. This is just for fun. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching. As we plug out here, I'm going to throw up one of those videos from the GMs, just a compilation here where they talk about their pre-draft conceptions, about what they were thinking here. Let's see, I'm going to go with, that insight. We talked about Reg 8. I'm going to go with that insight on Reg 8 because I thought their responses were pretty interesting. And then I'll bring us out. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining the show. I appreciate it. We'll touch base with each and every one of you. I wish I had something to send out, like a triple X to send Alec, but I don't. The big guy took that one, but I might have a hat for you. I'll see if I can get some stuff out as a thank you. But folks, thanks again. I hope you enjoyed the draft, and we're going to be checking out here with our video. Here it is. Thanks, guys. This Reg 8 change, could that shift with some of these draft picks, like Stephen Alberts, for example, from Lindenwood University?
I think it definitely can and will. And the first thing it'll do is it probably provides colleges with more leverage to, they're a more attractive place for rugby players internationally to end up, because they know that there's potentially a pathway there and they can get into MLR, and then they can potentially get their professional career going alongside it or after it, and gives them a genuine way forward. So that's the first thing, and it's great there. And hopefully we'll see some partnerships pop up between colleges and MLR teams. Like, I think that's a really smart thing that most teams should be looking to potentially tee up now, because they can get involved with getting those players over early. The challenge is still the costs and the relocation and the logistics that come with international players. Like Stephen Alberts, for example, from Lindenwood, still needs a visa at the end of his study to be able to remain and work in the United States, although he's working towards his eligibility. And I know the league are working in a rule so that if you've done 3 years and you've got a contract for 2, you're going to count as domestic for MLR purposes. So it's all good stuff for the league and for the draft, and it definitely adds a little bit more weight. I'm not sure that we'll see the full effect of it this year, but I think moving into next season, we definitely will.
No, I think that might have an impact on the draft. It might influence which players are considered eligible, or how teams view some players for the future. For America, it's a good opportunity for young players that maybe study or have family around to continue their professional careers in the United States. So I think, looking forward to the Rugby World Cup, most of players have the opportunity to start to grow and to continue their professional careers in the United States.
It should do, yes. You still have the issue around some of these players needing visas, so you're asking teams to add like some extra financial investment to bring some of these guys in, depending on their current passport status. But yes, what it does, it opens a pathway up. A lot of these guys who have been through the college system, or as we looked at MLR, been in the MLR now for 4 seasons, 5 seasons, are able to start to qualify and look as domestic players, and hopefully have an eye on being Eagles of the future. I know we've got some players now with one eye on 2031 who have invested a lot of their time and energy into American rugby, and are hoping that they can get rewarded by that as well. So yeah, I think it's exciting. I think it's a great move. I think it's good for the game. It'll be interesting to see whether it does really affect this year's draft, because there are still some elements around that make it a little bit more financially challenging. But I'm all for it. I'm a big fan.
Yes, I think it will in a positive way for sure. This is an awesome thing that I wish it would have happened years ago. And I think it's really designed, and it really targets and hones in on the college kids, because for years it was an amazing, a kid comes over here from an Ireland or something, or from anywhere, Canada, wherever he's coming from, New Zealand. He does his 9 months of school. May rolls around, school lets out, the doors close, the bell rings, the door closes. You can't work in this country because you're here on a student visa. School doesn't start again to September. Where the hell are you supposed to go? What are you supposed to do? You have to go home, so you got to go home. You go home and work, and you're there for 60 days, seeing family, trying to put food in your belly. And then you come home and come back and your time resets. That's wild. That was kind of mind blowing to me. I don't know how people were supposed to pull that off. And then by the time you hit your senior year, your clock's set 0 and you got to start all over again. So this is awesome. And I think it's awesome, not only just selfishly for USA Rugby, but for rugby in general. A kid has an opportunity, like we talked earlier, has an opportunity, can get a scholarship, come to the United States, is playing for Lindenwood or playing, and now you can stay here and you're focusing on hey, my goal is not only to get a scholarship, or not only to play rugby and get a degree, but I'm going to be Eagle eligible by the time I graduate. That's awesome.
Right. And I think it clarifies for a lot of kids, because that's the difficulty, right? Is that you get these college kids from overseas who don't understand the draft, who may not necessarily understand how that developmental pathway to get into the MLR completely, or the Eagles for that matter. And the whole be independent thing was rather ill-defined and certainly cloudy at best. Now it crystallizes and makes abundantly clear the requirements in order to get on that pathway, be considered a domestic player, and possibly put your hand up for Eagle representation. So, folks, that'll put a wrap on it for those people watching. Thank you very much for continuing to watch. I just want to say we're going to be having at the Rugby Rant the full-on 15 or 17-minute interviews with those 4 GMs rolling out over the next couple days, so you can check back with the Rugby Rant and see those, to just see all the GM's answers to some of those questions. And I want to personally thank those 4 individuals, Lucas Kukabeli, and let's see, we had Fitz. I want to thank him. I want to thank TK, and I want to thank, of course, James English. But thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. Check back with the Rugby Rant. We hope you enjoy this. Let us know, if we could do some things a little different, or what you might like to see to add value to your draft day experience. Because, again, here at the Rugby Rant, we aim to grow rugby one fan at a time. And we're going to keep pumping out episodes, because that's what we like to do. Scott, hopefully will be back very soon, and we'll be able to do more of that as we continue in the fall. But again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next.